Local 4 News begins right now with a breaking news alert.
And that breaking news is happening in Sterling Heights, where a teen has been killed in a crash. Sources tell Local 4 the 18-year-old motorcyclist died in a collision that appears to involve two cars. Video from Sky 4 shows a burned bike on Ryan Road near 17 Mile. Right now, it's not clear who caused the crash. Ryan Road is closed while police investigate. Also breaking this noon, a car has crashed into a house on the city's west side. Sky 4 showing the scene above the area of Joy and Otsego. We have calls into police to find out what caused this crash and if anybody is hurt. Now to our other top story, an argument that led to a shooting. An 11-year-old boy was caught in the crossfire. Today, the men behind the November shooting outside of a party store in Pontiac were sentenced. Jason Colthorpe is in the newsroom following that for us. Jason.
Yeah, Jason, it was a beef between two men in that party store on Joslin that spilled outside around 10:30 at night. An 18-year-old man started firing shots, and one of those hit an 11-year-old boy in the leg. He is actually okay. Jordan Hernandez was the shooter that night. He appeared in court today in cuffs and a prison jumpsuit. He was found guilty of 2 counts of felony firearms, but acquitted on assault with intent to murder, which is why his sentence was 2 years in prison today. He had nothing to say to the court, but the judge definitely had some words for him.
And I'm going to give you some advice. Don't make any friends in state prison. This is your first prison contact. Make it your last.
The judge kind of handcuffed there following the guidelines of that 2-year sentence. Angel Alvarez, who was driving the car that night, was also sentenced today. He pleaded to being an accessory after the fact and carrying a concealed weapon. He was sentenced to 3 years probation, and it just happened to be his 20th birthday today, and the judge reminded him his sentence was a gift and not to waste it. Jason, back to you.
Sound advice. Thank you, Jason. Happening right now, the man who was caught on video poisoning his now ex-wife has just been sentenced. Back in July, the victim said she felt nauseous and had blurred vision after having coffee her then husband prepared for her. So she set up a camera in the kitchen. As she suspected, her husband, Brian Kozlowski, was seen on video multiple times pouring diphenhydramine into his then wife's coffee in the morning. He was sentenced to 60 days in jail to be served on the weekend, as well as 5 years probation. A nearly 3-year-long manhunt has come to an end when the leader of a human trafficking and drug operation here in Detroit was finally arrested. Both Homeland Security investigators and the U.S. Marshal Service announced the arrest of Derek Bell in Monroe. A U.S. citizen, Bell had been the focus of a years-long manhunt following the takedown of a large-scale human trafficking operation at the now demolished Victory Inn Motel in Detroit. Bell and 5 others now face a 9-charge indictment. The man suspected of assaulting a Little Caesars worker last month is now sitting behind bars. Back on July 9th, Joseph Thorpe entered the Little Caesars demanding a refund for his pizza. After being offered a replacement pizza or a refund, he slapped the female cashier, knocking her to the ground before being escorted out by a friend. Thorpe pleaded guilty last week and was sentenced to 20 days in jail. He was also ordered to pay $750. Checking the forecast, you're going to need to rely on the sprinklers for a while to keep that grass green. Brandon is tracking a dry, hot stretch into the weekend.
We're trying to offset it with the limited use of air conditioning while you're using the sprinklers. I don't know if that helps. We've been doing all right here seasonally for summer, both rain, temperature-wise. So we take a little break from the humidity today. Look at that, 45% humidity. Northeast wind driving in drier air, slightly cooler. 76 degrees at Metro. We have 72 Lapeer to Pontiac. It was in the 40s up in Lapeer County this morning. 75 Grosse Ile, Harrow, Ontario, 73, about 21 Celsius. Heat index and air temperatures are identical, which just tells us there's no feels like concern, no air you can wear. It's middle 70s to some areas staying in the upper 70s this afternoon, north of M59, our north zone, but low 80s for most of the rest of us. Bone dry out there. Jason, we're looking for rain, for a little help in the pocketbook. We'll explain coming up.
Thank you, Brandon. The Democratic debates in Detroit over. Night 2 saw
Dip into the Kool-Aid and you don't even know the flavor.
We would work it out. We cannot work this out. The time is up. Our house is on fire.
There were two of the most segregated school districts in the country, in Los Angeles and in San Francisco. And she did not, I didn't see a single solitary time she brought a case against them to desegregate them.
The Democratic debate in Detroit, the two debates over 2 nights, are over, and the major target was front-runner Joe Biden. As teardown begins at the Fox to take out all those stages and everything, Democrats shift their focus to narrowing down the field of candidates. Tracy Potts shows us the big moments from last night and looks forward to what's next.
Democrats are moving forward with their sights set on frontrunner Joe Biden. We saw it in night 2 of the second debate last night. He was taking it from all sides on health care, on the environment, on women's issues, and on his record for decades in Washington. Kamala Harris went after him again on busing, as she did in the first debate. This time, Biden fought back, calling out her record not doing anything about desegregating schools in California when she served as Attorney General there. Kamala Harris was getting it from all sides also. Tulsi Gabbard went after her as well on her record on the death penalty.
And the people who suffered under your reign as prosecutor, you owe them an apology.
But the one person that all of these candidates were going after was President Trump. They did agree that they don't want to see him get a second term in office. So we move forward to debate 3. That's happening September in Houston, with Democrats tightening up the requirements for these candidates now. They have to get twice as much support in the polls, twice as many donors. It's possible some of them will drop off before that next debate. In Washington, I'm Tracy Potts.
Thank you, Tracy. Google is revealing the most talked about moments from last night's matchup. Military veteran Tulsi Gabbard was the most searched candidate. The clash between Joe Biden and Cory Booker involving the Kool-Aid comment, well, that was the one that was most tweeted about. Joe Biden had the most speaking time, while Andrew Yang spoke the least. Now, Republicans have their sights on Detroit. Vice President Mike Pence will speak to the Detroit Economic Club on Wednesday at the Weston Book Cadillac. Tickets are only available to current club members, and the vice president is not expected to speak afterward. Well, Michigan State University now has a new president. Samuel Stanley officially took office this morning, 2 months after he was hired by the MSU Board of Trustees. Stanley said in a statement that he is proud to join the Spartan community. He's the first permanent leader since Luana Simon resigned in January of 2018 amid the Larry Nassar scandal. General Motors is reporting a strong second quarter. The automaker says it made $36 billion because of the success of its pickup trucks. This comes, unfortunately, on the same day that GM closes its transmission plant in Warren. GM says it's shutting the plant down to shift focus from sedans to electric cars. It's one of 5 plants in North America set to suspend operations this year. Michigan State Police, looking for speeders on the Lodge and I-96 this week, found a lot of them. Officers zeroed in on those areas during a sting on Monday and Tuesday, and they made 512 traffic stops and wrote 164 tickets for speeding alone. They caught 90 uninsured drivers, 63 violating seatbelt laws, and 31 texting while driving. They're reminding drivers the main cause of crashes are speeding, following too close, and distracted driving. I drive that for an hour to and from work each day. There are a lot more than 31 texters out there on the Lodge. If you're one of the tens of millions of people impacted by the Equifax data breach, don't expect the settlement will get you any money, why the FTC says it can't pay up, and what you're being promised instead. And there's a new warning from health officials about what you feed your dog. The treat's linked to a salmonella outbreak that you are being urged to get rid of. Throw it out. But first, the search for survivors when a gas pipeline explodes. It took out homes, and the flames could be seen for miles. New developments in this deadly blast coming up next.
So this is Tilson Street in Romeo on a beautiful summer day, but this is what it looks like on Halloween. They go absolutely nuts. In fact, Michiganders, many of us love Halloween. Would make it a national holiday if we could. Well, there is a move to change Halloween from the 31st to a weekend permanently. Wow. What do you think about that? And guess who's trying to sweeten the deal? We'll have the story today at 4 on First at 4.